Imagine a country that was almost wiped off the map centuries ago. A country that has been the scene of wars and divisions throughout history. How did this state, which disintegrated in the 1750s and fell under Soviet rule in the 20th century, end up today with one of the largest and most powerful armies in Europe? In recent years, Poland has been transformed into a defensive giant by the long-standing uneasiness of being neighbors with the Russian threat. Forced to reckon with its biggest neighbor Russia at every step, Poland has redesigned its army and economy. So how did Poland leave behind the title of the most unprotected country in the world? What is the secret of Poland's journey to become Europe's superpower against Russia, with the most advanced economy and the most modern army in Europe? Now, we will open the dusty pages of history and take a closer look at Poland's miraculous rise from the 18th century to the present day. The answers to these questions and much more are just around in a moment. Despite its attractive geography and lack of significant natural resources, Poland has been surrounded by enemies who wanted to invade it for centuries. Poland has 12 neighbors within its current borders and has established good relations with most of them, but it has always been wary of Russia. Some analysts suggest that Poland will be one of the centers of the Third World War, which is likely to be triggered by the war between Russia and Ukraine. Categorized as a high-income economy by the World Bank, Poland attracts attention with the rapid growth of its economy. It is one of the largest countries in Europe, and at the same time, it is becoming the most powerful country in Europe day by day. At this point, it's time to dig into the dusty pages of history. The relations between Poland and Russia have a complex and often tense history. Over the centuries, this rivalry has seen several Polish-Russian wars and important historical events. Poland grew stronger, especially after it united with Lithuania in 1386 as a result of the marriage of Prince Jagiello of Lithuania and Queen Jadwiga of Poland. After this expansion, Poland-Lechia came into conflict with Prussia, Russia, Czechia, Sweden, and the Ottoman Empire. In the mid-1500s, United Poland was the largest and perhaps the most powerful state in Europe. But between 1772 and 1918, Poland was partitioned by Prussia, Russia, and Austria. And with the partition, this power disappeared. Poland ceased to exist as a political entity after 1795. When it regained its independence in 1918 after World War I, it had a brief period of parliamentary democracy. After a period of instability, Marshal Pilsudski seized power and established an authoritarian regime. In the interwar period, the presence of Ukrainian, Belarusian, Lithuanian, German, and Russian minorities in the country, numbering 8 million people, brought social, political, and economic problems. The predominantly German city of Gdansk, Danzig, was declared an open city under the supervision of the League of Nations. With the rise to power of Germany and Russia, Poland was partitioned for the fourth time in the late 1930s. Germany's invasion of Poland triggered World War II. At the end of the war, Poland, which was completely occupied by Soviet forces, was part of the Eastern Bloc, which included the Soviet Union, with which it cooperated closely in organizations such as the Warsaw Pact and Comecon. The annexation of Poland's former eastern territories by the Soviet Union as a result of the treaties reached at the end of World War II, and the demarcation of the country's western border by the Oder-Neisse rivers at the 1945 Potsdam Conference to include German territory led to a westward shift in Poland's borders. The western border was recognized by Federal Germany in a treaty signed in 1970. Poland followed a pro-Soviet Union rule until the collapse of the one-party system. The struggle of the Solidarity Trade Union in the 1980s played an important role in this collapse. From 1989, Poland switched to democratic rule. Poland's experience had the effect of accelerating change in other Central and Eastern European countries. Between 1989 and 1993, with the fall of communism, Polish-Russian relations entered a new phase. Since then, there have been occasional improvements and setbacks in relations. With the end of the Cold War, structural changes in Europe were reflected in Poland. NATO membership in 1999 was one of the decisive moves in Poland's recent years to become a European superpower against Russia. Poland's accession to the EU in 2004 played an important role in the country's economic growth. The Polish economy, which has been growing steadily and rapidly since the 2000s, has become the sixth largest economy in the EU by 2023, and Poland is considered to be the fifth largest country in the EU in terms of area and population. To this end, Poland is strengthening its ties with other countries in Central and Eastern Europe. It is trying to position itself as a regional powerhouse, spearheading initiatives in areas such as energy, infrastructure, and military cooperation. Despite the war in Ukraine, the country seems determined to achieve its goals. One of the most important contributions of the war in Ukraine to Poland's empowerment process seems to have been the increased perception of threats to national security. This has led the country to increase its military spending and defense investments. Despite the war in Ukraine, the country is determinedly pursuing its goals. Let us now take a look at Poland's military and defense developments. Aiming at enhancing the interoperability of military forces, Poland has been a significant ally of NATO in Central Europe and conducted multiple NATO military operations in the area. As we indicated, Poland has also been updating its military hardware and raising defense budgets, including new purchases of warships and fighter planes. Poland is also looking for more joint creation of a single defense force with other Central European nations, such as the Czech Republic, Hungary, and Slovakia. Poland inked a contract with the United States in March 2018 to buy the Patriot missile system, meant to intercept ballistic missiles and other aerial targets. The agreement was worth about $4.75 billion, and the missiles were a part of Poland's attempt to upgrade its defenses against outside dangers. The nation agreed with the U.S. in December 2019 to buy 250 M2 Abrams CPV-3 tanks for over $6 billion. Currently, being supplied several batches of the tanks have assisted Poland's defense capacity to be strengthened. Furthermore, in 2019, Poland signed a contract with the U.S. to buy 4 Black Hawk helicopters, among the most sophisticated military transport helicopters available worldwide. The Polish Air Force added the helicopters to be used in troop movement and rescue operations. One of the most sophisticated fighter planes in the world, the United States and Poland struck a contract in January 2020 to buy 32 F-35 aircraft. Part of Poland's attempt to modernize its air force, the agreement was valued at $4.6 billion. From South Korea in 2022, Warsaw bought 48 Fa-50 light attack aircraft. Under the arrangement, 36 aircraft were planned for delivery between 2025 and 2028, while the first 12 jets were delivered the year following the agreement. This would enable the Polish Air Force to phase out the usage of Su-22 and MiG-29 aircraft, entirely manufactured by Soviet Union. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has also set off actions in Poland meant to boost the pool of qualified soldiers. Poland has set itself the targets of developing NATO's biggest land force in Europe and raising the armed forces professional soldier count to $250,000 by 2030 and subsequently to 300,000, including reservists, by 2035. Along with training and technologies for local assembly of the K2 Black Panther tank, Poland and South Korea signed deals to buy 1,000 Talent K9PL infantry fighting vehicles, 120 K9 self-propelled artillery systems, 600 Hyundai Rotem K806 armored personnel carriers. The agreement sought to modernize Poland's military capability, lower reliance on foreign suppliers, and boost domestic military equipment manufacture. The deal's combined worth is approximated at more than USD 3 billion. Furthermore, in a project deemed the biggest in the armaments business in the nation in 50 years, the Polish government agreed to buy 1,400 locally manufactured infantry fighting vehicles. Officials of the Warsaw government clarified that the goal is to discourage any attackers, so a bigger and better equipped army is essential. Radosław Sikorski, the Polish foreign minister, claimed the first permanent U.S. military installation in Central Europe is the missile defense base in Redzikowo, a town in northwest Poland close to the Baltic Sea. According to NATO, the Redzikowo is part of a larger NATO missile shield. It was declared following the NATO summit in Washington in July that the newly built U.S. missile defense site was operational and ready for alliance defense. About 100 miles from Russia's Kaliningrad area, Redzikowo, the center of the facility, is found. Moscow boasts a substantial military presence, but is situated between members of NATO Poland and Lithuania. Russia is probably under further pressure from the Baltic states as this base opens towards Poland. Russia has rejected the Redzikowo base starting in the 2000s. Moscow said in 2010 that it did not grasp the reason and emphasis of U.S.-Polish cooperation in this field. Russia's takeover of Crimea in 2014 and its military actions in the Donetsk and Luhansk areas set off this process. It also preceded the 8-year full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which marked the lowest point in Washington-Moscow relations since the Cold War. Then U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton claimed in 2010 that the installation was part of a merely defensive strategy, not posing any threat to Russia, but rather shielding Poland and our allies from developing dangers like Iran. Aegis Ashore, a land-based system meant to intercept short and medium-range ballistic missiles from the U.S. Navy's Aegis system, resides at the Redzikowo installation, as well as another station in Devizelu, Romania. According to NATO, the Redzikowo installation is a component of a greater missile shield for the alliance. Russia's worries stem from the military might in the vicinity of the facility, which the United States will finally be delivering. But the threat the Russia-Ukraine war presents to Poland normalizes the building of such basing sites. Each NATO member is required to allocate 2% of its gross domestic product, GDP, to defense. For years, many countries failed to meet this threshold, which is not enforced by the alliance. Now, roughly 2/3 of countries will probably reach 2% by the end of the year. NATO countries close to Russia and the conflict in Ukraine have outpaced Western European countries in defense spending. Warsaw announced in the summer that it would spend 5% of its GDP on defense in 2025. At the start of Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022, Ukraine evacuated both civilian and military aircraft, especially transport planes, to prevent them from falling into Russian hands. Recently released satellite imagery, included in the latest Google Maps update, shows a base in Poland where Ukrainian transport aviation is based. 7 Ilyushin Il-76MDs and 1 An-70 have been spotted at Damblin Airport, located close to the Polish Air Force Academy and less than 130 kilometers, 80 miles, from the Ukrainian border. The aircraft are currently being used to transport equipment, ammunition, and weapons to support Ukraine's war against Russia. Polish ports and airports have become key bases for allies, bringing much-needed supplies en route to Ukraine. Poland has also deployed South Korean K-2 tanks to the Russian border. The K-2 Black Panther tanks effectively counter missile and anti-tank attacks and represent the latest technology adapted to the demands of modern warfare. Poland sent the first K2 tanks from the South Korean company Hyundai Rotem to the 9th Armored Cavalry Brigade in Broniło, a few kilometers from the Kaliningrad region of the Russian Federation. This decision, confirmed by Major Magdalena Koszczynska, spokesperson for the 16th Pomeranian Mechanized Division, underlines Poland's commitment to strengthening its defense capabilities amid growing regional tensions. The next stage will be to equip the tanks with systems used in the Polish army, including communications equipment, Koszczynska said. K2 Black Panther tanks are known for their advanced technological solutions, including an active protection system. They effectively counter missile and anti-tank attacks. They also have high mobility, which allows for fast maneuvers even on difficult terrain such as swamps or sand. In addition, the K2 has advanced fire control and targeting systems that ensure precision and reliability in various combat conditions. Poland currently has 8 trained crews, prepared by instructors from the 20th Mechanized Brigade, providing immediate operational readiness. A second batch of tanks is expected to be installed by the end of the year, further increasing the brigade's combat capabilities. With a range of 450 kilometers, the K2 main battle tank can conduct extended operations without immediate refueling. Measuring 10.7 meters long, 3.6 meters wide, and 2.4 meters high, it can accommodate a crew of 3. The deployment of K2 tanks near Kaliningrad reflects Poland's proactive approach to regional security, particularly in response to perceived threats from Russia. The Kaliningrad Oblast, located between Poland and Lithuania, serves as a strategic point for NATO's defense of Eastern Europe. By deploying advanced equipment such as K2 Black Panther tanks in this sensitive region, Poland aims to deter potential aggression and strengthen its role as a key NATO member on the eastern flank. K2 tanks play a central role in the defense in-depth strategy. This concept involves several successive lines of defense designed to slow the enemy's advance while inflicting significant losses. K2 tanks deployed in the second line are used for targeted counterattacks, attacking enemy weaknesses, such as supply convoys and command vehicles. Their integration with Polish artillery systems, including HIMARS and K9 Thunder, optimizes their battlefield effectiveness. Each armored brigade, based on Polish standards, requires 60 to 90 tanks to be fully operational. This provides significant strategic flexibility, allowing Poland to deploy 2 heavily equipped brigades of 90 tanks each, or 3 light brigades of around 60 tanks each. Designed to be compatible with NATO communication systems, K2 tanks integrate seamlessly into multinational operations. This ensures an effective collective response in the event of military escalation on Europe's eastern flank. On the other hand, Poland seeks to become Europe's largest military power with the Krab and K9A1 acquisitions. On December 23, 2024, several major contracts were signed in Stalowa Wola, further strengthening the Polish armed forces. These contracts, totaling more than $3.874 billion, include the delivery of nearly 100 Krab self-propelled howitzers in 2 versions, and support vehicles for modules equipped with K9A1 Thunder howitzers. The Krab is a 155mm self-propelled howitzer designed and built in Poland by Huta Stalowa Wola, HSW, in cooperation with BAE Systems and Obram. Built with welded steel armor, Krab provides protection against small arms fire and shell fragments. It is equipped with advanced systems such as night vision for the driver, NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical, protection, navigation systems, and the ZZCO Topaz fire control system. Secondary armament includes a turret-mounted 12.7mm machine gun for close defense and smoke grenade launchers to increase survivability on the battlefield. Designed to meet modern combat demands, the Krab enhances the artillery capabilities of both Poland and Ukraine. The second contract focuses on acquiring support vehicles for modules equipped with K9A1 Thunder howitzers. This initiative, worth approximately PLN 8 billion, aims to standardize the structure of artillery modules using Crab and K9 Thunder howitzers, which differ only in the type of howitzer used. This approach ensures operational and logistical consistency within the Polish armed forces. Poland is significantly intensifying its military modernization efforts in response to growing geopolitical tensions in Eastern Europe. For 2024, the country plans to allocate more than 4% of its GDP, around $32 billion, to defense, making it one of the highest defense budgets among NATO members. This significant budget increase focuses on improving the capabilities of the Polish armed forces through new acquisitions. In particular, Poland has signed contracts to purchase 700 heavy infantry fighting vehicles, CBWP, to support American Abrams tanks in combat. In addition, negotiations are underway for 159 Borsuk infantry fighting vehicles to equip 2 mechanized infantry battalions. These initiatives are in line with Poland's broader strategy to strengthen national defense and improve interoperability with allied forces. Poland's economic and military growth could also reinforce a more aggressive anti-Russian stance, given its aforementioned history with Moscow. This placement could have several consequences, both positive and negative. The main positive outcomes include strengthening Poland's relations with its Western allies, enhancing its ongoing national security, and gaining greater international visibility as a leading country in defending Western interests and criticizing Russia. On the negative side, the risks of conflict seem to include possible diplomatic tensions between Warsaw and Moscow, especially in the event of an incident involving military personnel or citizens of both countries. The possibility of greater dependence on Western partners, despite the recent agreement with South Korea, which could limit the country's autonomy and political independence. Another factor that could be affected is the balance of power in the EU. The European bloc has always focused more on Western European countries, such as Germany, France, and Italy, as the center of its decisions. Now, with Poland's huge economic and military growth, this balance could shift towards Eastern Europe and lead to a new regional balance. Thank you for watching us.